welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, and it's Mondays, so you know what happens on Mondays. It's Mondays with McCool, joined by James McCool, paydirt_DFS on Twitter, the co-author with me of The Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports. It's a 15-hour audio DFS masterclass you can pick up at theoryofdfs.com. I see all the people in chat. Suki Singh, Zach Cobbs, Woo, J Train, Doug Montgomery, Matt Mears, Jerome Lewis, Joe Mac 58, Apocalypse, Ryan Taylor, Tony P, Sky 33. I see you all. Feel free to ask your questions. We're tackling strategy, as always, DFS strategy here on the show. Tends to get repetitive, but whatever. But me and James are here to you could pick our brains. GPP, cash games, bankroll management, whatever you want. Right? It's just like the course. James, I've been getting up earlier since 3 days ago because now I'm playing the Euros soccer, which brutal. And it's soccer DFS is so much better when there's like 5 or 6 games and they all happen at the same time. But now Euros, they space them all out, and it's just like the World Cup. I mean, the World Cup was fine. It's just that you got to get up at 8 a.m. and check the starting lineup of the first 9 a.m. game. And then you have to figure out who's going to play in the later 2 games and then plan in your mind, well, if this guy isn't going to be in, then I'm going to switch to that, right? And then you have to, and depending on the teams, you're like, some of these teams rotate. Sometimes you don't know who's going to be the forward in a national team. So like even the backups are good. So they rotate, and they have 5 subs now because of COVID. So now even half the team could get subbed out in the middle of the game. So you don't even know what's going to happen then. But getting up early in the morning, you're more of a morning person. You're way more of a morning person than I am. What is your routine in the morning to prepare? We talk a lot about, like me, I don't, as far as like building lineups, like I don't really know anything of what I'm going to do until like an hour or so before the slate. And you're dealing with your own models. Me, I'm using like Cardi's backed, right? Yeah. Like I don't have to like look at anything. It's like, okay, just wait for the starting lineups to come out. You may strategize in your head throughout the day, but what do you do like the first thing in the morning? I mean, it's not like I don't look at the slate, but like I'm just kind of looking at an overview of like, oh, what's most likely going to be. Okay, I get a sense of what's going on, but how you wake up so much earlier than you're 2 hours earlier than me as already, time zone wise.
Yeah.
Yet you're still probably up 3 hours before I even get up at the same exact time. So what do you do in the morning?
So even though I'm running my own models, and even though I am putting in all of the data and everything like that, one of the beauties about building models is that you can automate them. So a lot of my work is automated in that after I have compiled all of the data, I can just run the data. Like I can just run my models at that point.
Do you just have a button? Do you have a run model button? Just wake up in the morning and press the button, go back to sleep?
Yeah, no, literally. Yeah, I have a button that just says go for it, and it runs all my scripts, and then I have another button that says go for it, and it runs my models. There are
new data that, like, obviously the day's games from before, like you're scraping and adding that new data in.
Yeah. So I have I think it's like 20 scripts that I run to compile all the data. Compiling data takes around maybe 25-30 minutes, something like that. And then I'll start simulations based on when the games are going to start. I mean, typically I don't run simulations until I don't know, probably if there's an 11 a.m. slate, then I have to start earlier, and then I have to start running simulations around 7:30 in the morning. But if there's not a slate until 5, like today, there's nothing else going on today. So I can take a little bit of time, and I'll go in and I'll tweak some models, and I'll go in, I'll do some back testing, and I'll go in and maybe I'll update some things that only have to be updated like once a week, because with hitter stuff, since I use shorter samples, I have to update that every single day. I have to run those scripts every single day. But with some pitcher metrics, like expected home run, my X home run per 9 stat, I only have to update that once every 4 days. So I can save that until a little bit later and stuff like that. But really, if we're being honest, a lot of my morning comes down to getting my mental right and doing a lot of de-stressing and like doing things that I know that I'm not going to be able to do throughout the day and getting my head warmed up. So
What
I
are you
wake
doing?
up,
What are those types of things that you're doing?
I'm
How
gonna,
much stress do you have in the morning that you need to de-stress
oh,
already?
bro, I'm a dad and I run 8 models a day. You think I don't have stress that I have to deal
Well,
with?
because you're not just doing MLB, you're doing for NBA playoffs,
Yeah.
for
So
esports, but you don't do soccer though.
I do not do soccer. No, I should, because soccer is basically, it just feels like hockey, but I have not done soccer yet.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. No, I don't think. See that. Here's a question for you. This is a good thing since the Euros. I'm trying to promote DFS soccer a little bit.
Sure,
I need
sure.
some more action in the lobby, and they're good. They're good sweats. They're good.
Yeah,
Uh, Soccer, you know, we're big into projections, right? We talk about simulations and projections and
yes,
models,
yeah.
and especially for a sport like NBA, right? Very much more linear. Now for MLB, just the range of outcomes is wide, but it's still you can model it better.
Yeah.
In soccer, like I'm not even saying specifically for the Euros, which we'll get into why that may even be tough. The the way teams play at certain game states
Mhm.
against certain other teams, like have such a small sample size, like how would you be able to model like how many crosses, tackles won, and chances created a certain team playing a 3-4-3 facing a 4-3-1-2,
Mhm.
but it's not just the formations. They're also being like, well, they're starting a rookie fullback,
Yeah.
or the favored team doesn't have their star striker in. So like now that the second, which is not a bad striker, but not the same as the first. Like how do you like? We're gonna predict. You can't just superimpose stats and go whoever starts up top of this team automatically gets this. Like how to me like how is it possible to really model soccer that well? I think it's to me I find it more similar to NFL.
Okay.
But the problem with soccer is that the stats are inconsistent. Like NFL, there are distinct plays and opportunities.
Mhm.
So you could say like we have in NFL where backup running back is in, right? And you can just predict like a 70% carry share and they're going to run the ball like 18 times.
Yeah.
Maybe they run the ball 14, maybe they run the ball 22 times, but it's not going to be zero. It's going to be he may not be efficient, right? He got 14 for 34 and that's it.
Yeah, you've got Brian
Or
Hill. He's going to touch the ball 15 times. He
right,
might get 6 yards, but he'll touch the ball 15
right.
times.
Or you have wide receivers like, okay, there's going to be, that the median amount of plays in the game is going to be 128, right? Between the both teams. And then this, like you could section off this and set different things in soccer, like one one card or one goal early, like just like you might as well just throw out your entire model at that point. And
Mhm.
then depending on the starting lineups, like you're gonna look and go, especially in evenly matched up games, go like it's quite possible that one team decides to just play on the counter just this game against that side. Like how do you possibly model that? And then we have for the Euros, like I'm just talking about club soccer. I'm just talking about like the Premier League or Champions League. These teams play 38 games
Yeah.
plus the mid plus they have other games. These national teams that they played two friendlies and the last time before the friendlies they played was 4 months ago with different players,
Yeah.
right? With like it's not even the same play. Like half the team is rotated because they're trying out this guy and that guy in this formation. So how do you get into the group stage of the Euros and go, well, I'm going to be able to model Poland versus Slovakia and go, well, are they going to play with a back four, back three, or are you not even going to know? And then just like how do you do that? Because it's not just predicting like goals and assists,
Mhm.
right? And you could use like Vegas lines, the anytime goal scorer odds, which are not that efficient, but at least it's something.
Yeah.
But like all the peripheral stats that come into soccer, like that's why like in soccer DFS, the 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 most the highest floor players that people play are set piece takers because you could median like the number of corner kicks and free kicks a team will get.
Mhm.
And then typically on a team, there's like one or maybe two guys that are responsible for those
Yeah.
plays. And that typically results in a cross or a shot or a chance created, hence DFS points. So we look and you go, oh, Peter Zielinski is going to be on a majority of set pieces for Poland. He's 6,600. His median's probably 10 to 12. He's going to be popular at that price. And then, but you look at the rest of the team, it's like, how are you supposed to know if Matthias Klick versus Gregor Krakowiak in the midfield? It's like, dude, either these guys score like 1 or 2 goals like a season for their clubs, and they come from the back. It's like, how do you predict an assist? And they're most likely not going to get crosses. They play in the middle of the field. So it's like, how do you predict the number of tackles won against Slovakia, who the last time that Poland played Slovakia was 6 years ago with other players? Like, so tell me, like, we have soccer projections at RG, but they're highly variant.
Yeah.
Because I can't see how you could model soccer on a matchup based level other than just possession.
So my first answer is that you can't.
Well, you can't. You obviously don't do it.
Well, no. So like, let me like say why I say that. When you are taking something that is super variant like that, and something where you don't have realistic matchups and you don't have good samples and you don't even really know who is going to be playing the game, there's a very specific few things that you can model when you are putting together projections. You mentioned set pieces. So like, that's one thing where like you can put together a median and say, okay, this is relatively consistent, like concerning everything else. But like, you don't know what's going to happen in the mid. You don't know how many guys are going to score. Like, you don't know a lot of these random variables. And that randomness, I think that when people try to model it, and RG's projections are probably fine, and Osmo's projections are probably fine, but like you said, they're highly variant. And the reason for that is because when you try to model something that is based on random binomials, like you can't actually model it. So you can put together something that is usable. You can put together something that is going to be able to give you some sort of guide that is probably going to be a top-down model based on Vegas, based on implied goal totals, based on, people taking shots and stuff like that. But you can't ever really capture, in the same way that you can for NBA. In NBA, we talk a lot about NBA and how it is something that you can project relatively easily. Like the models make sense. It's a very linear model. With something like soccer or with NHL, my approach to it is not to project it. I have NHL models, but I do not have NHL projections. And the reason for that is because I think that so much of it comes down to the randomness that happens on any given action in the game, that trying to project that and trying to say, here's my best guess at how many goals this guy is going to score, Sam Burns or whoever, like trying to project those things is exceptionally difficult. And I don't think that I could be accurate enough. And I think that it's very difficult to be accurate enough on them to make them useful. What I do instead is I put together a ranking system that ranks things that do matter when it comes to fantasy point ceilings. So instead of trying to predict how many goals somebody is going to score, I would rather try to put together a median projection of how many shots on goal they take. Like in NHL, we have high danger and medium danger and low danger shots. So I will try to put together a model that takes guys who are typically getting a lot of time on ice, typically getting a lot of assists, typically getting a lot of high danger shots, because high danger shots have a significantly higher chance of scoring goals than low danger and medium danger shots. I care a lot about guys who are getting a lot of total points for their team. So instead of trying to predict how many assists plus goals somebody is going to get, I just want to take guys who have a high percentage of their team's goals and assists per minute on the ice. So I'm doing a lot of modeling to try to find opportunity. and that's the way that I would approach soccer as well. I would be wanting to look for guys who get a lot of crosses or a lot of assist opportunities or goal opportunities or set pieces, stuff like that. I would want to be modeling towards guys who actually have the opportunity to get lucky, right? It's the same thing that you and I talk about with DFS. You want to put yourself in position to benefit from the luck of the slate. I look at super highly variant sports like NHL and soccer the same way. I just want to be able to identify the guys who put themselves in the best chance to get lucky in any given game environment. And then when you're looking at like matchups, you can't like take Poland versus Sweden or whatever matchup who played 6 years ago. Like you can't take that individual game environment, but you can take how often Poland allows X, Y, or Z, compare it against the league average, and then give them a regressive boost that other teams can take advantage of. I do that a lot in League of Legends. Like I know that the mid laner for, I don't know, EDG suppresses opposing mid lane fantasy points per minute by like 6% or something, because I can take their averages and I can take what their opponents have done, compare it against league averages, and then develop an odds regression so that I can then know how many fantasy points I should expect and what boost to apply to the other mid laner and apply it to their fantasy point per minute stats. I would do the same thing for soccer, where like that matchup that you were talking about in mid, how often does that guy allow successful tackles, and then compare that against league averages and then apply that boost towards the other mid laner. And then that's what I would do. So I think that when it comes to developing models for these super highly variant sports like soccer or NHL, I prefer to look at it as trying to project opportunities and not project actual outcomes, because these non-binomial distributions that we deal with in these sports are just, I mean, they're random. Like it's randomness. So
right. When you talk about those type of distributions, we're not talking about a normal one. Like we're not talking about a bell. Like you can project bell curves easy. It's just when you look at the distribution and it has no discernible. There's no, like sometimes it's here and then it's there and then it's. I mean, like like what does the median or mean?
It doesn't.
When the distribution looks like that. It's just well, there's the middle. Today it could be 1, it could be 16, it could be whatever. The problem I have in soccer, and you know me, I'm gonna say the thing that I hate when people say.
Yeah.
You got to watch the games.
Yeah.
I think the inputs are much more subjective. Like in NFL, you have to put you still have to put your subjectivity to it, because you're gonna have to input target share, right? Based on their like, because what ends up happening is that a receiver's out, right, or something, or they're gonna run the ball more, and then you have to go like, well, they have less passing plays, but is this guy gonna get more of the ball? Is that guy? And then you're like, I'm gonna just 26% for this and 19%, and you're the kind of ballpark.
Yeah.
You're kind of just making an educated guess on what the middle ground is. Well, in soccer's the same way. Like you could do all your models you want, like, but once that starting 11 comes out an hour before the game in a soccer game, and you go, well, this guy like we have a lot of times that fullbacks are typically the defenders that you target in DFS soccer when you play defender.
Okay.
Because you have to roster 2 of them, because they're more likely to cross because they play out wide. Typically on Draftkings soccer, the wider players are the more valuable ones because you can only cross from wide positions. But there are fullbacks that, like, they on the formation, you'd look and you go, oh, that guy, it's a $3,600 fullback. I should play that guy, not realizing that based on the way that team plays, like that guy ain't getting forward. Like he's playing more as they're not going to be going up that wing. They're not going to be overlapping on that side. Now, if this other fullback was in, the other guy, like he's an attacking fullback, and he's going to go forward. So people, you look and you go, oh, this guy's playing in a central attacking midfield role. He's a playmaker. And you go, no, the way this team plays is that they go up the wings so much, and this guy actually backs, like you almost have to know the teams in order to do that. We have like Spain today. Spain's the biggest favorite against Sweden. Or Or we have like, oh, Lewandowski. I'm using soccer examples because it's happening. But I'm trying to describe this concept that you can apply to other sports. We have Robert Lewandowski, who's the forward for Poland. He's $12,000 on DraftKings. He's the most expensive player. He only has a plus 110 goal scoring odds. The reason why he's priced at 12K is because he plays for Bayern Munich, and they just fucking left his price that way. I mean, but Poland isn't as good. But Bayern Munich would crush Poland. So like Lewandowski just happens to be the best player for Poland, but Poland in and of itself is not a good team. So he shouldn't be 12K. But you shouldn't be modeling it based on any of his club stats or anything like that. And then you take a look at Spain. They're the biggest favorite on the slate. And if you model Spain, you're going to sit there and you go, how do they score 3 goals and score no points? Because Spain, not to make fun of Spanish people, but they tend to be shorter.
Mm-hmm.
They don't cross the ball that much, and they hold possession. They have a very strong midfield, and they'll hold the ball for 75% of the game with little passes here, setting up. They'll get 9 shots in the whole game, have the ball for 75% of it, and if they score 2 goals, it's like, if you have those 2 goals, sure, you got the points. But other than that, you're sitting there, you're playing their fullbacks, you're playing Jordi Alba at 6,300 going, is this guy ever going to, like, you're watching the game going, that tons of accurate passes, those 0.1s, yeah, great. You get a nice two points in that. But like without watching the games, without knowing the teams, like you could seriously get into trouble by just going in and going, well, I'm just going to look at anytime goal scoring odds and just assume peripheral points goes along with that. And there's some teams that are horrible that for DFS purposes are great. We had a couple of years ago, when Kieran Trippier was on Burnley. Burnley's a horrible team.
Yeah.
But the horrible teams cross more. So all Burnley would do is just go down the wings and cross the ball like 46 times a game. So you have a fullback that he's on the worst team, and he's the 6K fullback getting 20 points every game, never scoring a goal, not getting an assist or anything. It's just the way that they play. But if you replaced him with another fullback, you don't just go, oh, it's not like NBA where you could just like, oh, it's a 3K guy that's going to get X amount of minutes or whatever. It's like, no, that if Trippier's not in, he's not going to do the same thing. They're going to play differently. Or the left back is going to take care of. I mean, like to me, those things are so subjective, and especially since you don't even get the starting lineups until an hour before kickoff. Like, how effective is modeling in that type of environment?
I think individual modeling would be fine. I think it'd be fine because, like, with those guys at that point, like, if you do a top-down model on the team, then yeah, you're going to miss that stuff because you can't you can't apply the same per cross stuff to a team. Like if a team averages this many crosses when this guy is in, but it's different when this guy is in, you'd have to change the model based on the starting lineup. And you could do that. You could do that where you could have a way to like, you have a list of starters and then you run a formula that says if this guy is in this starting lineup for this team, then project this many crosses, and if this guy is in, then project this many crosses.
How many conditions you'll need for soccer to do something like
well,
that?
no, but I'm just giving examples of like how you would model it. I don't know.
Because also to give another example, the starting forward matters. We had a game Saturday that Kiefer Moore started for Wales, and he's 6'5". Like that's the projected starting lineup for Wales was Harry Wilson starting as a false 9. And a false 9 in soccer means basically they're not playing with a center forward. Like they're just playing with like 3 guys up, and there's no target. There's no send. They love to rotate and switch around and whatever. A number 9 is a classic center forward. Now, Kiefer Moore is a 6. He's not fast. He's there. He's just big and tall. You cross the ball, and he gets his head on it. If Harry Wilson is in as the false 9, obviously you have to decrease the crosses. They're not going to send the ball into a box to a 5'9" guy, right? To try to get it through the trees. But once Kiefer Moore's up, now all of a sudden the value of the wide players starts going up. Like Like how does a model do that?
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm just saying, like, how complicated is it going to be that those? It seems like, oh, they're just playing a different guy up. Well, that matters. We know that they're more likely to do this thing now. This guy's out, like Kevin De Bruyne's not out for Belgium. It's like he's the fulcrum of their entire offense. It's like they still won 3-0, right? They still won, but it's like how does that affect well, let me take a look at the games that Kevin De Bruyne didn't play. In the past 4 years, there have been 2 of them. How do you model based on a sample size of 2?
you don't.
And then even with him not playing, there were still 3 other guys that are not in this game played in that last. And like, you just throw up your hands. That's why, like, to me, soccer, I mean, I started on soccer, but soccer to me, like, projections are at best a guideline. And then, I would never even go to the RotoGrinders projections and press optimal for cash games. You're gonna lose.
Sure.
Like these numbers, like they're too variant. They'll project someone for 5 points at 2,800 and going, dude, this guy could easily score nothing. Like, or he could score a goal and have 14. Like, you're gonna play that guy, like, you can't. It's like playing an MLB cash games and just picking guys that only strike out or get a home run.
Yeah.
Like, the median may be 7, but they're gonna get 0 or 14, and you don't want 8 of them in your lineup, right? But soccer, if you go by like median projections, you may get a lot of that. So, I mean, this is the roundabout way. I mean, I'm just curious, only because, like, it's just weird that we're projections and simulations type of people. But when it comes to me playing soccer, is it just maybe James, is it just a bias that soccer is the sport that I know the most? So my bias is that, you're nodding ahead. My bias is that the projections can't possibly capture what I know. And that's exactly the false stuff that we tell other people that, you know baseball, who cares? Just go by the numbers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you could find somebody who says the exact same thing about baseball. I think you'd find somebody who says the exact same thing about NHL, where they're just like, especially NHL, they'd be like, oh, well, like you don't know how this line reacts when it doesn't have Connor. I can't name.
Right.
You don't know how the Avs are going to play.
Dude, with NHL, they play with the same people. Like, NHL is the NHL. There's 2 defensemen, there's 2 wingers, and a center. I mean, like this.
Oh, no, sir. No. If the Avs don't have Nathan McKinnon, they're gonna play way differently, dude. Like, if the Islanders don't have skater BCX on the second line, like that's a different second line.
The last time I knew an Islanders player, it was Pat LaFontaine. That's how long
I don't know.
I followed.
I don't know any of them, but I can tell you that in the same way, and I can even relate it to Counter-Strike, dude. Like, there is a different way that Ninjas in Pajamas play on individual maps. Now that they have Device, who is one of the best players in the world, who replaced their other opper, Knock. So Ninjas in Pajamas, the way they used to play, and they're not even used to playing with a person who is of Device's caliber yet. The way they used to play is Plopsky would go in.
Plopsky?
Plopsky goes in. He's my favorite player. He's awesome. He goes in, and what he does is he will sprint in anywhere, and he'll take a fight. He's an open fragger. So what he will do is
open fragger. I knew that, right?
His only job.
Plopsky is an open fragger.
Plopsky is an open frag.
Was he in the closet fragger?
No, because he would never be in the closet because the guy is just out everywhere.
So is he like Leroy Jenkins? Is he like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the only thing I know about any of that. I just
Leroy Jenkins. He will go in, and his entire job is to be the first person into a site so that he can try to find a fight and identify where people are. And the way that this goes is he either goes in and gets 2 kills and secures the site, or he goes in and he dies instantly. There is no chance that there's anything otherwise. He's not getting an assist. He is not putting out a smoke. He is not throwing a flashbang. His job is go in and shoot at something. and that's it. But what used to happen was Knock would be sitting back with the op, and he would be waiting for Plopsky to go in, and he would be waiting for the flashes and the smokes and all the utility go out. And then after Plopsky dies, now Knock can go in and try to clean up. That's not what Device does. So when Plopsky goes in and does those things, Device is good enough to go in, and he's good enough to actually give support to Plopsky and also take fights. So now instead of a 1v2, Plopsky's in, he's either going to die or get that double kill. Now it's a 2v2, so now the team is better. So now they play better. But the other part of that is Knock would just survive. Like he would die very, very infrequently. Device will die more, but he will also get more kills, and he will also win more rounds, and he'll get more impact. So that, and then like there's other examples where like guys will be relegated to different parts of the map. Like Dust 2 is a map in Counter-Strike that I just despise for DFS purposes because it's really, really bad for fantasy points per round. But what'll happen is like there was one player, BN Tet, he was the carry for his team. He would like get the most kills, most games. But on Dust 2, he's relegated to the pit on B site. And so that just means he's just sitting there. Everything else is happening everywhere else, but he's not getting kills because he just has to sit in this one spot and watch this one spot and wait for people to try to go through it. And if people don't go through it, if people are avoiding him, he doesn't get kills that game. And people usually wouldn't. So he would carry on other maps, but he won't carry on Dust 2. So like those kinds of things, although it seems harder to model in the same way that with NHL, like if more is in, they're going to have more crosses. It seems harder to model, but you can take, and models can be pretty complicated. And you can say, oh, so this team is going to be playing Dust 2. Okay. BN Ted is his kills per round goes down to 0.59 when he's usually a 0.71 guy on this map. So if that map is assumed in rotation, you can change his kills per round.
Yeah, but you'd have to know that though.
Right. But you can know that. And you can put together algorithms that can figure those things out. But like when you know that, you can look at the stats. You can look at the stats for like when like they are going to be playing these maps. You can look at the stats and you can input those stats, and then you can.
But you have the previous data.
Right, but you need data for everything. That's why.
What happens if there is no data? That's the point that I'm making.
You can put that data in. You can do it.
For what? For 2 substitute appearances for 8 minutes each? I mean, like what? Sure. What are you supposed to do?
You can put it in for an odds regression, and you can regress it against their average.
What sample size?
You can put it. So if you have two appearances out of like 10 games, then you can just odds regress based on a 20 percentile, and then you can take that
8 minutes, 8 minutes total with no touches. What? How do you? There's nothing to regress. There's no stats.
You can try.
You could try. I'm not saying that you'll be successful.
And also remember, I'm not giving an excuse as to how you can project soccer because I already said I wouldn't project soccer. I'm just going through like me as a model builder, what I would try to be doing in these instances. If you have the data to do it. If the data's not there, because I didn't know the data wasn't there for that stuff. Like,
well, the data's not there because the sample size is like, because for the club teams, I think you could do it. There's enough data. You could regress, even 3-game, 4-game samples because they still play the same team. And national teams, they rotate so much. They don't play that often that all I think of is like, oh, if they play a 6'5" guy up top, they're going to cross more. Like, and then you look, it's like, when's the last time that he played for the national team? It's like 2 years ago, 8 minutes. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Look at, how much did they cross in those 8 minutes? Well, maybe they didn't even have the ball for 6 of those minutes.
Right.
Maybe they were up 3-0 and he's just coming in just to get a run out, get a cap for the national. I mean, like what is that supposed to show you? Like nothing. Like it'll say that, nothing changes. It's like, it's obvious that something has to change.
Does he play in the club games?
Yeah, but you can't go by the club. I mean, you can't.
So, but couldn't you take like?
Yeah. Yes, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to say, well, on his teams, does his club cross more when he's in versus
Yeah,
the
you could
average
build a
of like,
boost, a
okay, I
percentage
see
from
what
that.
you're trying to extend club.
I'm
But
just
then,
trying
but
to
then,
remove your bias that it's impossible to project soccer.
no, but I'm trying to project it in my mind. I'm trying to do the same thing that you're doing. It's just that to me the data is just it's just like with Lewandowski on Poland. It's like you can't project him on Poland. Like he plays the same way. Like if you want to, it's not like he's a center forward that faces goal. Like it's not going to change the way he plays. It's just that on Bayern Munich, he actually has world-class players delivering him the ball. And on Poland, he just has a bunch of Polish people.
Sure.
Right? That's the main difference. If you gave him better players, then yeah, he should be 12K. Or just like hovering around over here. It's like, so how do you extrapolate that? So like to me,
it's pretty hard.
Right? It's hard in any sport as it is, but I think in soccer, it's the hardest. And the way that you play soccer DFS is not as intuitive as like NHL. Like you compare it to NHL.
Yeah.
NHL, you're playing lines. So you're correlating a lot more in your lineup. You're going, I'm going to play power play 1 on this team and the second line on that team. And they have you could look at the totals and, okay, you're not going to go like, yeah, there's probably more nuance to that, but not that much. I mean, just like in MLB, if you say, look at the team totals and on FanDuel, pick 2 and put 4-4 and good luck. Like, you're not going to be that far off. Like, you could get by. Like, you could just literally do that. And you wouldn't be as bad as a lot of the lineups that I see the bottom 20% of contests.
Right.
Soccer, there's like, when people are like, oh, I'm going to take 6 players from one team and then get 2 1-offs because you have to play 3 teams. It's like, good luck. Yeah. Let's see if you get a 5-0 game in international soccer, which like not in these major tournaments, in the qualifiers you do. When it's Spain versus, the island of Moreau or something, like it's like the best the half the team are dentists during the day, right? I mean, like that, yeah, you'll get Germany versus Faroe Islands, and that's like an 8 total, and Germany's gonna win like 9-0. Yeah. Then you're playing 6 guys, but like in soccer, it's not as clear cut as like, oh, well, I'm gonna just stack this and stack that. And it's like now we're goals in it. Oh, if I pick this goal scorer, who should I play to get the assist? It's probably not a center back, but it's probably not the center backs or the goalie. So like you got 7 other guys to choose from. It's probably going to come from a wide position. So now you got like 4 or 5 guys to choose from. Well, which one could it be? That could be anyone. Like who knows? Yeah. Who knows what it could be unassisted. It could deflect, and then you never get it. You don't even get an assist. So like, what am I supposed to tell people? It's like at least anytime goal scorer odds, you could look. That's an actual market, right? You could probably find markets for corners and shots and stuff like that. And for the major stuff, you're not going to be able to find it for like, if you're playing MLS or something, they're not going to have those small. For the World Cup, for the Euros, they'll have like, you go to like Bet365, go to like a UK book, like they'll have like every market possible. Yeah. Because I mean, this is highly watched in Europe. So you could use that as if you use like the efficient market hypothesis and just say, well, I'm just going to model it based on these and act like these are efficient numbers. Like that I could see that I could see doing. But I mean, you run, that's a slippery slope. You run into issues with that, where if you're just going to I'm just going to go by the betting public on a couple of core stats. And then, well, how do I extrapolate this out to individual players? Because it's not like you could bet on individual players' crosses. Like, it's not like you could bet on individual players' tackles, like the stuff in DFS. You could just bet. You could just look and like one team's has an over under 9 corners, and another team has an over under of 3 corners. And you're like, okay, well, most likely the team with 9 is going to be possessing the ball more, and whoever is responsible for set pieces and corner kicks, well, you could add 0.7 or something because they're going to be, or shot assisted for a point. Like you could add that, or the shot number of shots in the game, they got 6 over under. It's like, okay, well, who normally shoots? Well, you could distribute those points around like that. But I mean, that isn't very efficient to do, especially when you can't can't even allocate anything until an hour before the game to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It sounds really, really hard. I do think that when you get into things like that, there is, and that's why sports like NHL and sports like soccer and sports like MLB, that's why they're so lucrative to people that understand game theory rather than understanding just how to use projections. Because you have to have an understanding of like, okay, well, this guy who is 4,900 and plays fullback is on a team where like they don't actually do anything with their fullback, but he's cheap and he is in the optimal and people are going to play him. So he's going to be like 22% owned or something. But then there's this guy who's 4,700 who plays on a team that does the same kind of stuff. He's going to be 2% owned. So like, obviously you and I would take the 2% owned guy, but you know, the public's going to take the 22% owned guy or whatever. So that there's a lot that when you are dealing with higher variance, when you're dealing with these random outcomes, and when you're dealing with things that you can't consistently and reliably project, that's when game theory is so much more valuable. That's why I like MLB so much. It's because like, yeah, you have the Dodgers and you have Trevor Bauer on a 3-game slate, and people are like, oh yeah, I got to play Trevor Bauer and I got to play the Dodgers. They're up against the Rangers who suck. And then the Rangers put up 12 runs and just shatter Trevor Bauer and 89% ownership. So there's so much value in something like that, where if you can look at it and be objective and you don't have these biases against certain teams or players or outcomes, you can make a lot of money. Just living even a slightly contrarian lifestyle. You don't even have to be absolutely insane. Like the other day, referencing that 3-game slate where Trevor Bauer and the Rangers were on it, like that slate, you needed the Rangers, but realistically, all you had to do was just like not play Trevor Bauer in that instance on a 3-game slate. And you could eat all the rest of the chalk. It doesn't even matter because he's 90% owned. If he gives up 3 runs and only has 4 strikeouts, like count your money. You know, you have already made the right decision. So,
but people find it hard. People find it hard psychologically to do that because it's the same thing that we say in the course. You win money in DFS in the long run, not by playing the most probable outcomes, but by playing the less probable outcomes that are giving you a better payout.
Right.
So like in the case of that 3-game slate, if you stack the Rangers and faded Bauer, you're going to lose 90% of the time.
Yeah.
You're going to lose 90% of the time, but the 10% of the time that you win $50,000. I mean, like you win a lot. So which is more beneficial for you? It's very easy. That's the easy leverage point. Now you could play Bauer and then play Dodgers and try to get different and try to get the nuance, but that's what a lot of other people are going to do. You know, on a 3-game slate where Bauer's 90% owned, that if you just fade Bauer and he bombs, you have a shot at first place. Like you don't have to think past that. Because once you fade Bauer, feel free to build your lineup any way you want. Don't worry about whatever the best projection, whatever, do whatever you want, right? At that point. And if Bauer puts up a 34-point game, then you lose. Okay, you move on to the next game and find that next at 90%. And that's the core of DFS. Maybe not at 90%, but you have to look at a player. You have to look at a team. You have to look at a lineup construction and go, well, you know, should I be playing Acuna at 27% ownership on this slate? Should I be playing alongside Shane Bieber at 42% owned? And like, is that official? Should they be disowned versus other players? And then if it's like, if you find that you have ones that are egregious, then you just go, well, if I just X these 2 guys out and build a lineup, it's like, as long as those 2 guys, you're playing for the 2 guys to bomb more so than your lineup to succeed. Because that's the only, and once those 2 guys bomb, like now you have a shot at first place. But like, if the guys that bomb are 6% owned, like you're not passing them in people. But people have psychologically hard time doing good chalk, bad chalk. We talk about that in the course. There's no that's descriptive after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want immediate results. I faded Bauer, played the Rangers. He puts up 8 innings, 14 strikeouts, and it's like, oh, you're an idiot. It's like, yeah, but you get to play DFS tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Like, just put yourself in the position to get first place with plus EV lineups, knowing you're going to lose 90+% of the time. But when you win more money. It's like, well, I would like to cash more often. It's like, okay, feel free to play those min cash type lineups. See me at the end of the year. You'll feel like you've won. And you'll see that, like, oh, you're minus 8%, right? There's this thing called rake. So that's going to bleed you dry. So you're going to look and you're going to feel like you've won. I came in 8th in one contest. Like 8th? 8th is a set of steak knives in these contests. What, are you kidding me? Oh, you came in 8th once? Oh, I came in 14th another time. Okay, I was close. I'm getting there. You look at the end of a whole 6-month baseball season, you're down 8%. Oh, great. You have the stories, but you didn't cash enough lineups because you're not going to cash enough lineups. And you have 2 top 20s in 150 slates. Like, you're playing badly. Like, oh, you're not playing awfully, right? You're not losing 70% of your money or anything like that. But still, that, to me, that's the easy. Those, if you play that way, that's who I exploit. It's not the bad players that, who knows how they put together their lineups. The bottom 10% of the contests. The players that, got it. I mean, if you did it yesterday, you crushed though. I'm saying if you played the Blue Jays and the Astros yesterday as chalk, congratulations. I mean, sometimes that happens. Sometimes the chalk just smashes the hell out of it.
Well, and yesterday, I mean, as soon as Marcus Semien hit that home run, it was after Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel. Like, those two hit home runs, and it's like, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter, really, in the grand scheme of things. Like, those guys are not going to be in the winning lineup. Maybe at that point.
Unless they're in a Blue Jay stack once they start hitting 6 of them.
Right. But I'm getting to that. Like, those two guys, you're not even tilting yet. Like, home runs happen, whatever. If 2 home runs happen and then they don't score anymore, like the Blue Jays chalk sucked.
Right. But once Vlad hits a home run.
Once Vlad or once Semien or once Bichette, like once there's 3 home runs on a team, that like I instantly went in the Discord. It's like, well, there's chalk bomb. Like it. And at that point for me, like if 20% of the field now has 3 home runs,
you're dead.
Like my chances have diminished down to like below a 1% chance of me doing well on that site at that point, because I'm now competing with at least 20% of the field, or at least like 18% of the field, if you consider that some guys didn't have that combination, but whatever. Like once those things have happened, once the chalk has hit, once 20% of the field now has enough to win a GPP, I pretty much like don't even check my lineups for the rest of the night because there's so little chance of me doing well with the way that I play, that if 20% of the field, and then once the Houston chalk went off, it was like 35% of the field or something, like you're just on it tomorrow. It doesn't matter. You're just on.
Those are the high scoring slates. Like when you see the winning score in FanDuel was 372.
It was hilarious. MLB. It was hilarious. It was like 269 on DraftKings. Right. That used to take down basketball GPPs. Like,
yeah, but that's not this is you can't judge by absolute numbers.
No.
So people will be like, oh, I put up a lot of, because that on those types of slates, I put up 180 points and didn't win.
Right.
And didn't yeah, because it's all the 2 chalk stacks they didn't just hit. They went nuclear. So, but you didn't gain anything. It's like, oh, if you played Blue Jays, Astros yesterday, and you could have came in like on either side in 200th place with that type, with a 4-4 of that lineup, not having the right piece. You'd have a different piece or whatever. You have a 4-3-1 or a 5-3 on draft. You could have still came in 200th place. So it's like, we constantly preach the fact that it's easier to win low scoring slates. So you got you got everything right, and you still came in 20th place. That's still not enough. So it's like, do you want to try to eat the chalk and be perfect? Like you need the nuts even closer to the nuts when the chalk hits, because everyone starts having the same points as you. When the chalk fails, there's so many more paths to first place.
Yep.
You don't need like when the chalk fails and some 1% owned guy hits 2 home runs, you don't even need him. Like, you literally don't even need it. You look and you go, oh, well, Pat Valleca, 2 home runs, against Glasnow or something like that. It's like, dude, he's like 0.4% owned. It's like, you're not gonna need him. Like, you don't even have to worry about that. So it's like you could win in so many different. You could. Oh, the highest scoring team on the slate is only 7 runs. It's like, dude, you could win with the team that scored 5 and a team that scored 4 and put it all together. But the Yankees, who were chalk, got blanked.
I think,
like, okay, then just as long as you found enough points, you're sitting with. We have winning lineups on those low scoring slates sometimes that have a 0 in it, that have a 0 and a 3 in it in the winning GPP lineup.
my favorite thing that I've ever done was take down a GPP with Chris Archer having -9 points. Negative
on
9.
DraftKings. On DraftKings?
Yeah, on DraftKings.
There was one, I think 2 years ago on FanDuel in the large field GPP.
Yeah, I remember that.
Took down with a -3 on which is like FanDuel. At least on DraftKings, you have to play 2 pitchers. I could see that. Okay, a negative pitcher, but having a negative pitcher on FanDuel and still winning a GPP.
I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was 2 Guns, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But it was
some. I remember because that was a friend. Like, wow, -3 a pitcher, and
it was so funny. It was so funny. But that's the thing. Like you just said, when you eat the chalk, everything has to go right for you. Everything. And like you feel when you have like the 30% owned Blue Jays that put up 17 runs, you're like, woo, yeah, everything's going awesome. And you realize that you're not even cashing. Like, why are you selling? Like I said yesterday in the Discord, and like, of course, that there are people probably, even in my community, even after I preach constantly the stuff that we teach in Theory DFS, there's probably still people in my Discord that think I'm an idiot, because yesterday I said I wouldn't touch the Blue Jays except for his secondary stack, because I knew that they were going to be so heavily owned. And I said it and I did it. I had 10% Blue Jays secondary stacks and I got crushed yesterday.
Or you could play the Blue Jays, just make sure those lineups are you have to.
That's why I have them in secondary stacks. That's why I have them in secondary stacks.
And it also turned out that you didn't even need to make them leverage. You had to make them leverage in one spot, and that was a pitcher.
Right. But my models had all the chalk pitchers as the guys who were projected well.
Right.
So when I look at that, I'm like, okay, well, I know that I'm going to be on the chalk pitchers. I know that I'm going to have them. So I can't eat the Blue Jays chalk. I can't eat.
But if you were willing to play other pitchers, then you'd have more. You'd be more willing to have 4-man, 5-man Blue Jays.
Right. You just have to be
that's the whole lineups, not players thing. Like, I just want to highlight, it's not like, oh, if you played the Blue Jays yesterday, you're an idiot, even though they scored 16 runs. It's like, no, like you either have to be perfect and perfect. You still have to get enough leverage. So you like on FanDuel, you needed Nola over Bieber or Rodon.
Right.
Yesterday. So, but that was the differential. And then playing like Biggio in the Blue Jays 4-man for positional purposes over like Altuve, or like because you needed that perfect 4-4, 4-3-1 type of combination on FanDuel that, like, in order to score 372 points. And actually the person that won is actually in the Bat Discord. So that's how I know that lineup scored 372 points, because but like I don't want to try to win the slates where you need in MLB where you need to score almost 400 points.
No.
Like, it's just like I just lose.
Yeah.
I have no problem yesterday. If I played yesterday, which I didn't, I probably would have had very little full stacks of the Blue Jays and the Astros.
Right.
I would have had them as one-offs. I would have them 3-man, like
that's what I did.
Wandering around or whatever, but probably, especially on FanDuel, one pitcher side, I would have played. Yeah, maybe I would have played some Nola. I would have been a lot lower on Bieber and Rodon, but still played plenty of them, right, in general. So, like, I know yesterday that if I played, I would have lost, and I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Like, I mean, and Good thing I didn't play. I would have lost, right? I mean, like,
Yeah,
right? But that's what I do every day. So when there are more days, James, where the top two stacks fail than when the top two stacks succeed together.
Mhm.
But everyone remembers the time where, but the top two stacks did great. I got to keep on playing the top two stacks and hopefully getting the right exact piece to win first place. And me, I'll just sit there and I'll just sit and keep on building my Pirates lineups and my
Marlins.
my Mariners stacks and Baltimore, every once in a while. I mean, like whatever, mid range. This team is going overlooked. Oh, the A's are going overlooked. But they're playing this, and okay, well, they'll be 2% owned. Let's hopefully they put up 11 runs today. Like that's an easier way for me to win first place than everyone's playing the Twins against the desk can, right? Nelson Cruz is 32% owned on FanDuel because he's 3,300 facing a lefty. It's like those are easy.
Yep.
You barely play any Nelson Cruz, and if he hits a home run, you just close your laptop.
You just move on, man.
Right. Okay. So you're gonna build me a soccer model then? Do you agree to it? Right? You're gonna build me.
Yeah, man, I'll take a shot at it. As soon as NBA is over, I have so much more time. And like, obviously we got to start getting ready for NFL here pretty soon. But like, as soon as NBA is over, man, and NBA and NHL, that's what's holding me back from new models. So I don't know. Screw it. We'll play around with the soccer lineup. Maybe we'll build a nice little random forest model, and we'll play around.
Do it for the Premier League. Do it for the start of the Premier League.
When does that start?
Mid-August.
Mid-August? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can get that done.
And also it's club football. So like there's data. There's historical regular teams, like the clubs don't turn around that often.
Yeah.
National teams play like 6 times a year.
Yeah. We'll get
maybe
it.
Maybe you could do it. Okay. And then we'll see if you could beat what you do is you build your own model and then we play head-to-heads.
There, yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do it. And we'll see.
You build your own Premier League model, and every Saturday, because I typically only play the Saturday slates for Premier League.
Yeah.
I'll play without it, like I normally do my cash games without the use of it, like a median or whatever. And you have to play whatever the mean optimal out of your projections are.
Deal. Let's do it.
Okay,
I'm down.
We'll do that. Okay.
Love it.
Hit the thumbs up button on the way out the door. Thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. If you're new here, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got MLB Grinders Live coming up later today. James, people can find your stuff, paydirt, DFS.com, paydirt_DFS on Twitter. And the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, 15-hour audio DFS masterclass at theoryofdfs.com. We got a big slate. We got 13 games on a Monday. That's pretty good. Do we have confirmed pitchers? Okay. Well, we'll take a look at it. We'll review it tomorrow because that's what we do here on the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.